Good evening and welcome to the Key West Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce the Mayor and the First Lady who are here, Craig and Cheryl Cates. Thank you guys so much. We're going to do something a little different today. As many of you know, last night was a hometown PAC Candidates Forum featuring candidates from the Mosquito Control Board and the school board. We're just going to ask those questions of these candidates tonight in hopes that they will... Just kidding. I came in and one of the candidates said, please make the questions difficult, and I figured that would be a very good way to do it. Before we get started, there's a picnic this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in front of the courthouse, the old courthouse in Key West. And that's this Saturday, 11 to 1. And that is for early voting. And it's to recognize Harry Sawyer's years of service here as our supervisor of election. And we're trying to, in order to recognize him, really promote early voting. So that, again, that's this Saturday from 11 to 1 o'clock. I'm going to tell the candidates what the format is, because this is kind of a strange format that the Chamber has not used before. Normally, we do not have an opening, but we are going to have an opening today. Each of the candidates will be given 1 minute to give an opening, and that opening we would ask the candidates to be limited to discussing your specific qualifications for the job, as opposed to a more general opening to talk specifically about your qualifications for the job of clerk of the court. We will then do something that we also haven't done, and we have been soliciting questions from our membership and also membership from the Monroe County Bar Association, and we received a lot of those questions, and many of those were candidate specific. We normally do not ask candidate specific questions. However, in this case we have candidate specific questions, one round for each of the candidates. You will be given 1 minute to answer those questions. All of the order will be determined at random, and we have a little bucket here, so we will select at random, so no candidate has an advantage or a disadvantage. After those questions, we then have random questions for each of the candidates, and then we have the same question that we would like each of the candidates to answer. And then each candidate will be given 1 minute to give a summation. And again, that will be selected at random, the order for each of these. We're very persnickety here at the Chamber about the time limitations. So we have here lovely Kim Works, and she is going to notify you when you go over. We also have punishments when you go over. We're famous for the punishment. Tonight's punishment, if you go over 1 minute, you will be forced to listen to the brand new autobiography read by the author of Virginia Panico. And it is entitled, The DOT Can Kiss My Ass. And other happy short stories. So, we'll begin with each candidate giving an introduction. And again, we're drawing the names at random. And you have 1 minute. And again, please concentrate your introduction on your qualifications for the office. And we'll begin with Stuart Kessler. You have 1 minute. And there should be 2 microphones there. They both should be live.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stuart Kessler. A little bit of my background, I was a practice law for 23 years in the Philadelphia suburb, Philadelphia area. During that time, I did jury trials, I did real estate. I'm very familiar with all the court systems and the court operations, and I believe that the legal processes are a very, very important part of this job. The second thing that I've done, I also have an MBA in finance. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I have more than 20 years of government finance experience on the finance side, so qualifications I have both the finance side and the legal side, both very important aspects of this job covered. You don't have to pick one or the other with me. The other thing I do have is a record of courage, which is important for the clerk to show that he has the courage to oversight things independently. Thank you.
Matt Gardy.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Matt Gardy and I am currently the Technology Director at the Office of the State Attorney. Prior to that, I've also worked at the Public Defender, the U.S. Army, and the U.S. Navy. I think most importantly is I bring the aspect of technology to the clerk's race. And if we looked at what the clerk's office is composed of, there's some really good things at the clerk's office, but where we need improvement is in technology, whether it be accessing civil and criminal case files, whether it be e-filing. And I have a track record, both at the state attorney's and the public defender's office, of implementing technology. Technology that saves money and also creates conveniences for the public and for the staff. I also have a record of transparency. I've written for Key West the newspaper and Conch Life newspaper, and I've been a critic of government. I think that's important to show that level of independence in the clerk's office. Bringing the transparency, I would like to make sure we have online budgets of all government agencies down to the line item and inventory online. Thank you very much.
Amy Himmelin.
Hi everybody, I'm Amy Hevlin. I was born and raised in Wellsburg, West Virginia. I was the Chief Financial Officer for an international engineering firm prior to moving to the Keys. My husband and I moved here in 2001. I was hired by the clerk. I was an internal auditor, and then the sheriff asked me to come work for him, so I came to his office as the Assistant Finance Director. I was quickly promoted to the Chief Financial Officer, which is the position I currently hold. I am a licensed Florida Certified Public Accountant. I have a master's degree in accounting, a bachelor's degree in business administration. I'm a member of the Fraud Examiners Association, a member of the Internal Auditors Association. I'm a graduate of Leadership Monroe County. I'm very active in many county charities, Relay for Life, American Red Cross, Christina's Courage, and I'd now like to be your next clerk of the court.
And Kevin Maddock.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Maddock, and I have been a resident of Florida Keys for 13 years, the last 8 of which is working in the Clerk's Finance Department. Qualifications for the office. The duties are very complex, and I have 8 years in the Finance Department, and I'm willing to say I know overall the county's finances probably better than any individual in the county. Leadership as well. I was on Lincoln City Council for 2 terms, Board of Governors of Fire and Ambulance District 1. Community, I'm on the board and treasurer of the Key West Montessori Charter School. I'm on the board and treasurer of the Monroe County chapter of the Florida Institute of Certified Public Accountants. Education, undergrad, a degree in accounting, MBA from the University of Southern California in finance, and a broad business background in the private sector, which I think is important to running a large organization. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next round of questions, as I mentioned earlier, are going to be candidate-specific questions that have been submitted by the membership of both the Key West Chamber of Commerce and the Monroe County Bar Association. And as a preface to these, let me say, again, we don't normally do this. However, this campaign, there have been a lot of rumors and innuendo, and we thought that it was important to allow the candidates the opportunity to answer some of the questions that may have been raised about their candidacy. I know if I was running for office, I'd like the opportunity to do that as opposed to let other people frame the issues. So we'll begin with a candidate-specific question for Kevin Maddock. Kevin, despite significant technological advances over the past 2 decades, why has the clerk's office not been able to provide online public access to court filings as several other Florida circuits have successfully done for years? And each candidate has 1 minute.
1 minute. That boils down to an issue of budgeting and priorities and your income taxes or your property taxes. There are other counties that have spent millions of dollars going on their own as mavericks, developing their own e-filing system, Orange County, for example. The state is in the process of not only mandating e-filing, but really upgrading the entire judicial system, bringing it into the 21st century in a broad aspect. E-filing is the front door to what is really going on in a multi-year process. Orange County is going to have to scrap their system because they're mandated to do what all of us have to do. The clerks are a congenial group and they work together. You really don't want a maverick running off on his own because it ends up being a waste of tax dollars, and that's one of the reasons why, plus we're a small county, it's one of the reasons why we haven't gone that far. But we are on the way there, and it will be in concert and at the same time as the other counties. Thank you.
The next candidate-specific question is for Matt Gardy. Matt, you have advocated significant changes to the way documents should be handled by the clerk's office, especially with regard to the recordation of documents, normally a ministerial function. Please be very specific and explain what policies regarding record recordation you would implement.
Well, first of all, thank you, that's a great question. The civil and criminal case files are in a system at the clerk's office that should be accessible to you right now. The system itself actually does redactment, and you can have those online at your fingertips from the convenience of your home. But we're not utilizing the systems because there's not good training for the staff, and there's not an intention and a directive and a priority to get that system, train the staff, and give access to the public records. More importantly, you're probably referring to the land records that I've talked about in terms of the robo-signing and the challenges that our title histories are faced with in our clerk's office. All of our title histories are affected, which affects property value and tax base. We need to raise the level of scrutiny of the filings that are coming in that you see and you hear about on 60 Minutes about the robo-signing. They permeate our court records, and we need to at least bring attention to that, and anything fraudulent, bring it to the state attorney's office. Thank you.
Next question is for Stuart Kessler. Stuart, can you please explain the circumstances related to your disbarment in Pennsylvania?
Okay. Ed, I'm glad you asked that question. You know, a lot of professionals, when they leave their state, don't want to take the necessary action to maintain their licenses when they move to another state. Because if you keep your license in, like Pennsylvania, you have to have malpractice insurance, you have to pay license fees, you have to have continuing education. And there are tons of people in the Keys who have surrendered their previous licenses. I think Kevin is one of those. He used to be a CPA. He's not a CPA anymore, and I understand that that shouldn't be held against Kevin either. I'm sure he has all the accounting credential. I have a very limited time to say this, but it was a resignation. It wasn't a disbarment. It was a resignation. I want to make that ultimately clear. A resignation by me. I chose not to maintain my Pennsylvania license. There was never any accusation whatsoever of anything that I did to violate anybody's trust, any public trust, any wrongdoing whatsoever. Anybody doesn't want to doubt that, I'll be happy to show them the record.
The last question, candidate specific, is for Amy. Amy, how would you propose to resolve the inevitable conflicts of interest that will arise between the clerk of the court and the sheriff's office, given the fact that you currently work with the sheriff's office?
The sheriff and, first of all, the sheriff and the clerk of the court are both elected officials. They're constitutional officers. The clerk's office, the clerk himself, has no responsibility over any other constitutional, not the sheriff, not the property appraiser, not the tax collector, not the supervisor of election. I think confusion comes in with the word internal audits, and the clerk is responsible to audit the Board of County Commissioners internally, their operations, and that's the oversight that the clerk has. The clerk has there is no inherent conflict, and there can never be, because the clerk doesn't have responsibility over the sheriff. The sheriff is his own constitutional officer. The board appoints him his budget. Once that's been approved, it's the sheriff and his administrative staff that can spend it as they wish. There is no oversight by the clerk's office.
Amy, you might as well stay there, because the next question, we're going to start a round of random questions, and your name was randomly selected. Please explain how you perceive the role of the clerk of the court interacting with Monroe County's legal community, specifically Monroe County's lawyers.
Well, I know if I'm the clerk, you know, that's a very important role. The legal community has to come and depend upon the clerk for the court minutes, for any of the recordings, for court cases, so it's very important. I'm one of those types of people that I'm open-minded, I'm willing. Anything that's going to be under me as the new clerk, I'm open and willing for changes or to help those that need access to anything and everything that the clerk's office has.
The next question is for Stuart Kessler. Stuart, if you as the clerk disagree with a budget expenditure made by the county commission and believe that particular budget expenditure would violate either state law or some other policy of the county, what steps in order would you take, if any? And please be specific in your answer.
That is a good question. Obviously, the first thing that you do when you recognize a problem with the legality of a expenditure, and I want to emphasize that word, that the legality, that is the clerk's responsibility, not to count the beans, but to determine whether the county's expenditures are legal. This is a Supreme Court determination. What I would do was first bring it to their attention. I would discuss it with the attorneys for the county. If we couldn't come up with a resolution, I would bring it to the appropriate state agency, including whether depending on the nature of the violation, it could be a federal, state, or state attorney issue, depending on the nature of the violation and the appropriate jurisdictional entity that would control that particular thing. But certainly you try to resolve it first with the county commission and bring it to their attention.
The next random question is for Matt Gardy. Matt, under what circumstances, if any, would it be appropriate for the clerk to provide opinions to the county commission or county staff? Please give specific examples.
Well, I think you might find my leadership style as a clerk quite different than the existing clerk. And I think I'm not criticizing Danny, that was his leadership style. But I think it's very important that not only should you be an accountant and manage the credits and debits, you should also watch fiscal accountability. And if you see not just the way money's being spent or if it's being spent appropriately, but if it's not being spent well, you should bring that to the attention of agency heads, you should bring that to the attention of the Board of County Commissioners, and you should find ways to articulate that to the public so they're aware of what's going on in your county. So while you're not just being a fiscal accountant, you're also watching fiscal accountability. And I think that you have to use every means possible, whether it be in newspapers, whether it be websites, to communicate exactly what you think are better ways to do things. As the clerk, you see all the agencies, all the resources, and everything the county has to use their resources appropriately, and you should communicate that to everyone.
Kevin, the last question in this round for you. The Florida legislature recently reduced clerks' funding statewide, resulting in approximately a 7% budget cut for the fiscal year, which began July 1st. How should Monroe County's clerk's office respond to this reduction in funding?
You said before, but
no. How should the clerk's office respond to the legislature's cut in the clerk's funding or the clerk's budget? Where should the cuts come?
Okay, that's done in concert with the other clerks, because since Revision 7 or Article 5 of the Constitution and further legislative changes in 2009, the court side is no longer funded locally. All the fines and fees we collect goes up to the state's clerk trust fund, and then the clerks submit their budgets, and it is approved at that level and sent back down to the local clerks. We don't operate independently. We can't have a maverick clerk running out, doing his own thing. So the cuts were done in concert with other clerks, and virtually all the clerks came to agreement. Some counties are in better shapes than others, but we had to have a unified front, and the half-day Fridays is essentially statewide, because that was the agreement that served the statewide clerks as best as a whole.
The next question is going to be posed to each of the candidates. It's the same question, and the order will be selected at random. Again, you'll have 1 minute to answer the question. And here's the question. It's fairly simple, straightforward. If elected, what would be your top 3 priorities? And we'll begin with Kevin Maddock.
Top 3 priorities. 1, the first priority would be to do no harm. I mean, the office isn't broken, and major changes would be a mistake. That would be priority number 1. Priority number 2 is I would like to make the clerk and the court system a more friendly and user-friendly place to do business. I would actively reach out to the community, the legal community, and the public as a whole to make things easier. I know as an example right now, evictions are a terribly complex item. There's a woman up in Islamorada that's going on her third try at an eviction, and our clerks cannot give legal advice, and she comes in tears. But I'd like to see, as much as possible, instructions and examples, maybe written by lawyers, so they're safe to give the advice. Make it a friendlier, more user-friendly and efficient place to do business. I guess I didn't get to number 3. There is a third, though.
Why don't you go ahead, and we'll give each of the candidates additional time.
Number 3 is bring the perception of we have to earn our tax dollars. Now, the business community, if you don't perform, you go out of business. That's the way it is. If government doesn't perform, it just takes more of your money, and that's the way it is. I don't like that idea at all. I really come from the private sector. This is the only public sector job I've had, and I would want to operate the office with the philosophy that if we don't do our job well and efficiently, we don't deserve your tax dollars. That would be number 3, but it's a 3-way tie.
Same question, Amy Heavily.
I have ideas for the clerk's office to make it better, faster, and more cost-effective. Before we can make any changes, though, whoever becomes the next clerk, I think needs to be sensitive to the fact that the employees of the clerk's office, it's been 30 years since they've had a change in their management. So, whatever any of us do, I hope that it's going to be at a slow pace. Some ideas that I've already thrown out there to make it better, faster, and more cost-effective is automate the payroll. I would change a few things. The clerk has a lot of records on his website. I just think they're very difficult to maneuver and find, so I would change the front page of the website. Of course, I would meet all the deadlines, especially this of e-filing. I read in the front page of the paper this week about the new law with Social Securities, and it's easy. We need to develop an internship for the kids at the high school and or the college and use those resources that could potentially be free resources pair them up with one of the staff members so that we can get the office automated and up to the 21st century as far as technology is concerned. I have other ideas as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Stuart Kessler. If elected, what would be your top 3 priorities?
First 2 are easy. Number 1, complete electronic filing. Number 2, put the title records online for the real estate industry so they can do easy title searches. But the third thing, this is going to be a little controversial, is to understand what it is that the clerk is supposed to do. Believe it or not, as members of the bar here, there's a lot of case law out there, including as recent as 2010, a Supreme Court decision that despite what Amy said earlier tonight, that in Alachua versus Powers, it is the responsibility of the clerk to oversee the constitutional, that's the sheriff's office. They are supposed to look at the legality of expenditures, including that the funds are spent for a specific statutory purpose. That means that when telephones go to the IT department, the clerk has a responsibility to make sure that they are legally given to people who are assigned those jobs. There was a failure to do that, and for people to say that because they're under $1,000, or because they don't have an obligation to inventory under those, or because it's the county's responsibility, that means that the clerk and some of the candidates sitting here tonight don't understand what the obligations and responsibilities are of the clerk's office. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. And Matt Gardy, same question. If elected, what would be your top 3 priorities?
First and foremost, I would give access to the criminal and civil case files because we can actually almost do that right away. Anybody who's actually tried to access those records know they have to go into the office, they have to wait for them to be redacted, they can drive back to Big Pine and come back the next day. It's absolutely ridiculous and it costs the staff a lot of time and effort. We can do that electronically right now using the system that's in place. We just have to train the staff to do that and give people the convenience of those records from home, online. Secondly, that's different than e-filing. We should prioritize e-filing so that the state attorney and the public defender and all the private defense attorneys can utilize the system that is somewhat developed by the state, but also the responsibility of the clerk to handle their end of it as well. And we need to prioritize that. That's just been back-burnered. There's no reason we can't lead the way on that. We have to draw attention to restoring the integrity of our land records. As I mentioned, we all know about all the fraudulent filings, or if filings at all. We need to make sure the integrity of our land records is given a high level of attention. If for nothing else, the clerk exists to maintain our property records. And that is going to be one of my vital components of my time as a clerk. And then finally, transparency, whether it be online budgets or whether it be online inventory. Currently, right now, at the State Attorney's Office as their tech director, you can go online to the State Attorney's Office and see where every piece of our equipment is right on our website. And that's simple, it's easy, and that's the kind of thing we need to implement at no cost to you.
Before we go into the final summations, let me just say this. These are the 4 Republican candidates running for clerk of the court. The election is August 14th. Early voting is for the next 2 weeks. And I know for a fact that these 4 folks have gone up and down the Florida Keys on a very, very grueling campaign. And on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and the Monroe County Bar Association, we want to thank you guys so much for running for office. Each of you will now have a 1-minute summation, and we will begin with Kevin Maddock.
Well, the question I think is simple. What do you think of the office now? I think it's running pretty well. And I believe my experience enables me to provide the continuity and stability to keep the office running as it is. That's because I know what we do and why we do it and how we do it. I know the people in the office, and we all work very well together. The patient isn't ill, so doing any major surgery or major changes would be a mistake. But the patient isn't in an Olympic form either. So there is room for improvement, and I think it's reaching out to the legal community and the citizens as a whole to make access and usability of the court system more convenient. But overall, it is the knowledge of the office that only I have that enables me to really promise you that I can run it the way it has been run in the past. Thank you.
Matt Gardy.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for coming out. I think we have to break it down to track record. And right now, if you look at my history at the Public Defender's Office or the State Attorney's Office, I have a history of implementing technology to a point where it saves money, creates conveniences, and helps the staff and the public as a whole. The clerk's office is being run well. There's 5 CPAs in the clerk's office. There's no doubt that the fiscal side of the house is very important. But the next step in the game is making sure that we utilize technology to its fullest extent. And technology doesn't cost money, it saves money. Our state attorney's office went before the county commission and asked for an 8% decrease in their county budget this year, primarily because of technology that I implemented at the state attorney's office. It's not just about savings, it's about providing a better product. So my track record of working from the largest customers, the public defender and state attorney's office, and understanding the needs of the customer of the clerk's office has given me the insight to bring that to the clerk's office and make the improvements we all need. Thank you.
Amy Hemley.
Better, faster, and cost-effective. For proven results and technology upgrades, please vote Amy Hevlin for your next clerk of the courts. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chamber, for hosting this.
And Stuart Kessler.
I also want to thank everybody at the Chamber for hosting this and having all of you for attending tonight. I'm very proud of the fact that I believe that I'm the person who has the track record that will stand up and go toe-to-toe with the county commission when there's an illegal expenditure or do what's necessary to do it. And the reason that you know that is my recent experience on the school district's audit and finance committee. You've read the paper, you know that when there was a tough thing to stand up for, I had the courage to do that, and I hope you believe that of all the people sitting here, that I'm the most likely to do what's necessary when the tough thing needs to be done. And I hope that you believe my experience and background gives me the best ability to understand what needs to be done as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's give these folks a big round of applause.